Cherokee County, Georgia, wasn't known for violent crimes. Murders were rare, and when they did occur, they almost never resembled the chaos and mystery that unfolded at the Ferris family farm in the summer of 2018. What started as a missing person report quickly spiraled into a web of betrayal, family feuds, secrets, and a brutal death. The Ferris family seemed successful and self-sufficient on the surface. Gary Ferris, 58, was a well-respected commercial real estate attorney. His wife, Melody Ferris, had been a stay-at-home mother for over 3 decades. Together, they raised 4 children, Chris, Scott, Emily, and Amanda, on a sprawling 10-acre property in Cherokee County, which locals referred to as the Ferris Wheel because of the constant family drama and emotional turbulence it harbored. Despite the picturesque horses, goats, and the peaceful farmland surrounding their home, there was dysfunction lurking beneath the surface. The Ferris siblings often fought, primarily over money, specifically their father's wealth. Family members said the drama almost always circled back to the same issue: who's getting Dad's money? On July 4, 2018, that underlying tension exploded into full-blown tragedy. It began with a simple concern: Gary was missing. On July 5th, Melody and one of the daughters reported that Gary hadn't been seen since the evening of July 3rd. Initially, his children assumed he'd suffered a medical emergency. He wasn't in great health, smoked heavily, and had high blood pressure. His son, Scott, who lived in an apartment above the barn and worked the farm full-time, joined his siblings in searching the vast property. Hours passed with no sign of Gary. Then, standing near the family's burn pile, a site used for disposing of brush and debris, Scott saw something out of place. In the ashes, he spotted what appeared to be bones, human bones. He immediately called 911. Investigators and forensic teams arrived and began excavating the site. The remains were severely burned, but were soon identified as Gary Ferris. More disturbingly, a bullet was discovered lodged in his ribcage. This was no accident. This was murder. The investigation begins. Detective Daniel Hayes of the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office had never seen a case like it. The fire had destroyed much of the evidence, but the bullet changed everything. It meant someone had intentionally killed Gary and attempted to burn his body to cover it up. Everyone in the household became a suspect, especially those who lived on the property: Melody and Scott. Melody told police the last time she saw Gary alive was on the evening of July 3rd. He had come into the kitchen asking if she was going to make dinner. She told him there was plenty of food in the fridge. That was the last interaction she had with her husband of 38 years. Scott said he saw Gary earlier that day at lunch. Later that night, as he returned home around 11:30 p.m., he noticed a fire glowing at the burn pile. Gary had mentioned wanting to burn some brush, so he thought little of it. By July 5th, no one had seen Gary. Grandkids were asking for Big Daddy to take them on a ride in the RTV, but he was nowhere to be found. That's when the search began and ended at the burn pile. Blood and lies. The investigation quickly turned up unsettling clues. Blood was found in the kitchen, on the stairs, and in the basement, where Gary slept due to sleep apnea. A .38 caliber bullet, matching the one found in Gary's rib, was discovered on the basement floor. Police suspected Gary had been shot first upstairs, then tried to escape down to the basement, only to be shot again. Melody denied any involvement, but suspicions grew when investigators discovered Gary's wallet in the console of his car. Melody claimed she found it there, but Scott insisted his father never left his wallet behind. Then came the most damning clue: Melody's affair. Inside her purse, detectives found birth control and a credit card belonging to a man named Roy Rusty Barton. Melody had been having an affair with Rusty, a farm equipment salesman from Tennessee, since 2014. The affair was no secret. Family members, including Gary, had discovered it when Rusty appeared at Emily's wedding in 2016. The humiliation was immense. Prosecutors would later say the motive was simple. Melody wanted Gary out of the way so she could have a life, and possibly a marriage, with Rusty. The two had even researched wedding bands together. The Ferris family implodes. As detectives delved deeper, the dysfunction within the Ferris family became increasingly apparent. Gary had supported all of his children financially, even into adulthood. He helped Emily buy a house and paid for Chris's business expenses. Scott, meanwhile, worked the farm and received spending money in exchange. Melody, however, seemed to resent her children for taking advantage of Gary's generosity. She claimed Chris had been stealing money and that Scott was lazy, partying and golfing instead of working. Scott, on the other hand, said Melody was the real problem, spending lavishly, disappearing for days to see Rusty, and draining family accounts. Text messages confirmed that Gary had confronted her about her spending and was threatening to cut her off. A call that changed everything. One of the most critical pieces of evidence came from Rusty Barton himself. He told investigators that Melody had called him and said something shocking. "He's in the burn pile." Rusty claimed this call happened before the body was found, something only the killer could have known. Later, when Melody was arrested, Rusty changed his story, saying the call happened after the remains were discovered. Prosecutors believed Rusty was lying to protect Melody. Meanwhile, investigators found blood on the family tractor and RTV. Melody admitted she frequently used both vehicles, either of which could have been used to move Gary's 300-pound body. Detectives believed she used one to transport Gary's corpse from the basement to the fire pit. It took over 5 years for the case to go to trial. The prosecution painted Melody as a woman motivated by money, infatuation, and freedom. She wanted Gary dead so she could claim his estate and start a new life with Rusty. They had no murder weapon and no eyewitness, but they had blood evidence, phone records, and a suspicious lover who changed his story. Melody's defense attorneys argued she physically couldn't have moved Gary's body, and they even suggested Scott had the motive and the means. At 6 feet 8 inches and 280 pounds, Scott was the only one strong enough, they said. He had access to the property, was allegedly angry about money, and pointed the blame at his mother almost immediately. The defense also claimed the blood found was from a dog bite Gary had suffered days earlier, not from a shooting. Amanda, the youngest daughter and only family member to support Melody, testified she saw the dog bite, but the turning point came with digital evidence. Investigators analyzed Gary's cell phone, which had location tracking enabled. On the morning of July 4th, long after Gary was presumed dead, the phone moved from the house to the burn pile and back. During that time, only Melody was at home. Scott, according to his cell records, was miles away. After days of deliberation, the jury remained deadlocked until they gave it one more try. On October 30th, 2024, they returned a verdict. Guilty. Melody Ferris was convicted of all charges: malice murder, felony murder, concealing a death, and making false statements. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years, plus 5 additional years for concealing Gary's remains. But the final act of the Ferris family drama wasn't over. At sentencing, Melody shocked the courtroom by accusing Scott, her own son, of being the real killer. She claimed she had protected him out of maternal love, but now she was done covering for him. Scott sat behind her, stunned. "She turned one last knife," he later said. Aftermath. To this day, Melody insists she is innocent. She says Scott had the motive, wanting the property, and that she was set up. Scott says it's all lies. Emily, Chris, and Scott all maintain that their mother murdered their father. The Ferris family has been ripped apart beyond repair. One son accuses his mother of murder. One daughter stands by her. Another calls her a liar. A husband is dead. A mother is in prison. And a once idyllic farm in Cherokee County is forever marred by tragedy. If there was ever a real-life soap opera, this was it. The Ferris wheel, spinning with betrayal, money, jealousy, and death, came to a crashing halt in a courtroom, but not without taking a family down with it. The story of Gary Ferris's murder isn't just a tale of crime, it's a haunting reminder of how deep-rooted family wounds, secrets, and greed can destroy everything. Behind the barns and fences of a quiet Georgia farm lay a storm waiting to break, and when it did, it tore through generations of trust, love, and legacy. Thank you for watching The Ferris Wheel of Lies, The Murder of Gary Ferris. If you found this story gripping, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories that dig beneath the surface.